Okay, so we're here with Matthew Brockway, the new principal for Vasquez High School, and we're going to be asking him some questions today on his year here so far at Vasquez. So the first question I wanted to ask you was, as the new site director here, what are your main goals that you hope to achieve this school year, if you've thought of any thus far?
So I think the biggest goal that I have is finding a way to create some consistency on this campus. I know that there's been some turnover in terms of teachers over the last few years, and also turnover with administration. So really kind of looking at that, the system that we have, and trying to build some capacity, build some leadership amongst the teachers, and really work with each staff member individually to kind of foster their goals and foster their desires, and then also looking at really identifying what the student need is here, in terms of academics, but also behavior and socially. Those are things that I'm always interested in, because it is quite a bit different than what I'm used to coming from a 3,000 student campus to a 300 student campus. There's, a unique opportunity to have a little bit more individualized conversations with students, but it also you end up having a little more limited resources in that respect too. So just trying to find that balance of what can I do to help students become the best person that they can, whether that's academically or socially or through mental health or behavioral.
And that kind of goes with my other question about, you touched on it a little bit, is Acton is different from Palmdale. So you're coming from a larger school district. So how is it being here, the similarities and the differences, if there are, between the two schools?
So that's a great question. So, the similarities are, students are going to be students. They're going to have their issues. They're going to make some poor choices. But the biggest difference is that one-on-one conversation that you can have. Mm-hmm. Where I was at before, oftentimes I knew students' names, usually because I had to see them in my office.
Right.
I might have known 300 to 400 kids on the campus of 3,000.
Right.
But my goal is to get to know the 300 to 400 students here on this campus. And,
yeah.
There's going to be those incidents where it's discipline related, but also on the flip side, I want to get to know kids that aren't up here for a negative reason, and really foster those positive relationships with students, so that they see that leadership isn't just something that someone attained. It's an attitude, and I'm a firm believer that attitude of workers or attitude of groups reflect the leadership that is present. So I'm outside in the morning directing traffic whenever possible, and at lunch I'm out there walking around, talking to students, but also picking up trash as I go, and reminding students to pick up after themselves, because sometimes they need that little extra reminder of we're not slobs, we're students, and we have expectations at home that we can follow here at school. But also I want them to understand that I'm not beneath doing any job on this campus. So if they see me doing it, then I'm hopeful and optimistic that they'll see that, okay, he's not going to ask me to do anything that he wouldn't be willing to do himself.
Yeah. And as a parent as well, I really like seeing you out there in the mornings greeting the kids and seeing what's going on in the valet. Or I think that's great just to have your presence there, that you're doing that. I like to see it. And it's funny you mentioned about the picking up the trash, because last week High Desert School had the honor of meeting Leroy Petrie, the Medal of Honor recipient who lost his arm in Afghanistan. And so he was there to kind of kick off the rally for Medal of Honor. And one of the things he said was, when I walked onto the campus, it was so clean, and it's so nice to see school pride. And I thought, wow, they do notice everything. People do notice. And so having a clean, I like that you do that you instill that, because you're a role model to them, and that's amazing.
Absolutely. I think that, one of the easiest things, when anyone comes on a campus, the first thing they're going to notice is how clean the general campus is. But then they're also going to notice bathrooms. Like, those are the two things. Like, out of every area, like, those will be the first places. Like, oh, there's a lot of trash on campus, or your bathroom needs a little bit of work. And that's even when you go to a restaurant or go out shopping.
Yeah, you're right.
Those are going to be those common areas that most people are going to visit. So I try to make sure that those are all taken care of.
Yeah, that's great. And then what made you want to pursue a career in education?
It was actually through kind of happenstance. Every aptitude test that I took in high school said you should be an accountant, and I was like, okay, cool. Like accounting sounds fun. I like numbers. I'm good at math.
Yeah.
And so I started to pursue that aspect of a career, and so I was going to school, and I started taking an accounting class, and at the exact same time I started started working at a school as an instructional aide, and I realized that I absolutely hated accounting and really loved working with kids and seeing that progress that students could be made, because it was in a special education class. Not that I wanted to teach special education, but it kind of epitomized what could be done, because when a special ed student makes those gains or connects those ideas and you really see that light bulb click, that's the best feeling ever. And so I just knew that I wanted to be able to work with students, and initially it was I want to teach like third grade. I was like, that's going to be the best thing ever. And
yeah.
So I went through my education, ended up started teaching elementary school. It was 2 years of a 5-6 combo class, and then 1 year of a 4th-5th combo class. And it had its ups and downs. It's very difficult to teach combination classes because of curriculum and those kinds of things. But although I loved the kids, I kind of felt a draw towards older kids. And so I ended up moving to a middle school, and I taught 7th and 8th grade math, science, history, depending on the year. I think the first 2 years were history and science, and the last 2 years were math and science. And so having those relationships, those legitimate relationships with students, was my absolute favorite thing. Kids are amazing at that age. They can be a challenge, but they really start to see that people have actual relationships outside of the classroom with them. They take a vested interest in them, and that's where the power is in middle school and high school teachers, is creating those relationships, because they understand when it's authentic versus a positional kind of respect of like a second grader looks up to their teacher, and because they're an adult, it's very rigid and kind of like social norms that you respect your elders. But when you get to the middle school age and the high school age, there's that kind of give and take of creating those kind of relationships, and so I just absolutely loved it. So I taught for 7 years, and then I decided through working with the principal at that middle school, he was absolutely a mentor to me. My particular leadership style, I model after him. We meshed really, really well, and so we've actually had the opportunity to work together in that sense. And then also later on, when I was working at Knight High School as vice principal, he'd become the principal there, and so we got to work in that capacity again, which was really, really awesome, because it was a different kind of context. But we worked really, really well together, and so with him, I saw that the whole leadership by example, and then also allowing people to be professionals. That oftentimes in education, there's a lot of initiatives, there's a lot of, lack of a better term, red tape, and so there's a lot of things that come down and are very directed towards teachers that I think sometimes stifles creativity or stifles the burn and the love of teaching, and I don't ever want to be that person that does that now. Again, I'm still going to have that same kind of feeling from higher up down to me, from whether it's the state or a district per se, but whenever possible, I want to be able to give that flexibility and give the ability to those teachers to act and make those professional judgments and choices.
Okay, great. And you were recently inducted into the Little Rock High School's Hall of Fame, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
It was quite an honor to even be nominated. I think to this day I don't know who nominated me, but I was working in the district at the time, so it was easy for people to get a hold of me. Okay. I've always been kind of a shy kid and a shy guy. I don't really like being the center of attention, so that aspect was very difficult for me, because I kind of like to be behind the scenes and just see from afar. So for someone to nominate me and see see that recognition and see the kind of that outside perspective of the things that I've done within education was really exciting. I know that there were a few other students from Little Rock at that same time that were also nominated, that graduated with me and they were amazing candidates as well. Another one was in education for her teaching and special education. I know she does a phenomenal job, and another one is a law enforcement officer and a longtime sheriff. And so, it must have been a very difficult decision for a committee to come to, but it was amazing to kind of have that come full circle. A lot of my students from when I taught middle school went to Little Rock High School, so it was some of them, even though I know I mentioned it to them when I was their teacher that I had graduated and kind of could give them some insight. They're like, I can't believe you went to Little Rock. I didn't know that. I'm like, I taught you guys that. You just weren't listening. But then, them messaging me on Facebook or Instagram and saying congratulations because they saw the AV Press article. I really wasn't expecting an AV Press article. Again, not wanting to be the center of attention, I was like, okay, hopefully no one reads this and no one says anything to me. But it's definitely an honor, and my family was very proud. And my son took the newspaper article to his school. He's in 4th grade, and he was showing everybody, and he was super excited. So it definitely made me feel good. But just I know that there's tons of great things that come out of Little Rock High School, and really every high school and every community. There's always going to be those success stories, and while it's great to recognize those success stories, I think that it's also is equally important to recognize some of those students or past students that have gone through adverse situations in their life and really changed whatever their demeanor or their outlook on life in high school and to when they're adults. So if I could, change anything, I wish that we could find a way to recognize those people a little bit more. And I know it's a challenge, but
yeah, it's a neat program that they do. It's a neat that they do.
It's something that that district started doing. I don't know how long ago, and maybe they've just kind of always done it. But it seems like Little Rock started probably about their 25th year of being open.
Okay.
So I know, like at Knight High School, for example, they haven't been open for 20 years, and we didn't do it at Knight High School, but all the other ones that had been at least 25 years old had been doing the Hall of Fame program. So just Eastside and Knight are going to be kind of the next ones that start to do that kind of program. So it's really cool.
That is very cool. And then my last question to you is, what are some of your hobbies or things you like to do with your family on your spare time, which I'm sure you don't have a lot. Being an administrator is not an 8 to 5. You're here a lot for a lot of extras, and I see that. So
yeah, no, absolutely. It's difficult, but I try to include my family as much as possible with coming to events and things of that nature. Really, my hobbies. I love movies. I love playing video games with my son. We're just kind of a low key kind of family, so we don't have to go out and do extravagant things. We like to go to the beach or visit family, but most times I'm just really content with being at home and just being in their presence, because they're the reason why I do what I do. I have pictures of my family up along my window. In other offices that I've had, I put them up on the wall, and I call it my reason wall. So when I'm having like a bad day or questioning my choices in life of like, is this really what I want to do? And even though we get that way all the time, or it can come from time to time. Yeah. It's good to have that reminder. And so just looking at my wife and my son Logan and my daughter Chloe, and seeing them and seeing what positive things come from my work and my wife's work as well, it means the world to me. And so my daughter at this point, she's 19, she's kind of at this point settled, at least for the flavor of the week of what she wants to do with her life is teaching. Right. My son has mentioned that he wants to become a math teacher too, so my daughter swears it's not because I've done what I've done, but I'm sure it's a little bit. So a little bit of it rubbed off on her. So I'm excited for that, and I can't wait for them to be adults that you can have those kinds of relationships, because everyone tells me once a child turns 23, that's when you get to kind of have fun with them. They become like cool adults now. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that with my daughter, because she's 19, and then my son's 9, so he's got a little bit more ways to go. But he absolutely makes me laugh. He is the funniest, most unique person that I know. He just always finds a way to just off the wall make you laugh. Just comedic timing is there. my daughter's
Yeah.
super compassionate and has always looked out for the well-being of others. My wife works within women's ministry at our church, and she also works with Weight Watchers, and so helping people improve their lives is something that she's really passionate about. And she's the biggest support that I have. If I didn't have her support, I don't think I could do the job that I do. So it's all about family and balancing the work and the family life. And sometimes it's been a little bit more difficult for me to do that. But moving into this position specifically, we had that discussion before I even applied for the job, that when we have family time, we have to make it meaningful. And so that's really my goal.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time so that we can share with the community all your great accolades and what you plan for the future.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.